Greetings, comic book fans. I'm Jason. It is the 2nd of January 2017, and you're watching Comic Haul Weekly, my weekly video where I share with you the brand new comics I've picked up this week, or in this episode's case, last week. I would like to start the video by saying Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you all had a great holidays and Santa bought you everything you wanted. I did intend to do a video before Christmas, but with the holidays and we'd work and working different days and changing days and doing extra days, it just worked out that I wasn't able to do a video. I knew over the holidays I wouldn't be able to, but I did want to do one last one before, but it just didn't work out, I'm afraid, which I apologize for, but that's life. So last week I picked up 22 books, which was a big haul. So let's get into this. I've divided them into 3 piles. First pile is the books that I'm behind on and I won't be reading through a bit. The second pile of the books I will hopefully complete reading today, and the final pile are the books that I've already read. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. So we kick things off with Marvel, and we have Steve Rogers, Captain America, issue number 8. I've dropped the Sam Wilson Captain America. I've tried really hard, but I just can't take to Sam Wilson as Captain America. And I've tried really hard, and I don't know what it is about it. And I was thinking about this the other day. There's characters like Bucky when he was Captain America, or Dick Grayson when he was Batman, or Wolverine, now X-23, now as Wolverine. There's certain characters I can accept in roles, and I just take to them, and I don't mind if they stayed that way. And then there's other characters like Jim Gordon as Batman, or Amadeus Cho as the Hulk, or Sam Wilson as Captain America that just don't work for me, and I just can't take to. And I can't. Some cases the characters aren't quite right for that, and I don't know in every case if it's that. But there's something I couldn't take to. As for this, I'm behind on this book. The first issue I absolutely hated, but the second and third issue kind of won me around a bit, and I was interested in where the story's going. So I'm looking forward to catching up on that. We then have Doctor Strange and the Sorcerer Supreme, issue number 3. For some reason, my comic shop didn't get issue 2 of this, so I've got to search for that on eBay when I get paid. Also, because I stopped reading Doctor Strange at one point, then I saw the film. I enjoyed the film, so I wanted to get back into it. So I've got I think it's 15 Doctor Strange books to read that I've got to get through. So I look forward to catching up on all of that. We then have got Spider-Man Deadpool, issue number 12, which this book's always a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward to catching up with that. There are too many Deadpool books, but I like some of the different things they do with some of the books. So we have Star Wars, issue number 26. This is on top of my list to catch up on. I don't think I'm that many issues behind, but I do want to get back up to date with that. We've got Uncanny Avengers, issue number 18. I was doing well with this. I'd caught up, but then they had the whole Civil War 2 thing, and I just got behind on it again. We've got Generation Zero, issue 5. Loved issue 1, but I haven't read an issue since then, so I really want to get caught up on that, because I enjoyed that. We then have Superman Action Comics 970, which, again, I want to get up on this. I'm enjoying the other Superman book, so I'm looking forward to catching up on this. I still love that, how they have, the story title on top of the page. I think that's a really great way for, people to just, yes, I want to jump on this book. Where does this story begin? And they can kind of see from looking at the cover, yeah, that's the first time that appears on the cover, so that must be the first part of that story, so yeah, I'm liking that. We then have Batman Detective Comics, issue 947, and I was up to date with this until they did the crossover. I'm wondering if I skip the crossover, if I dove straight back into the first issue after, would this just carry on the story, or does the crossover carry on in the regular book? I don't know. Because I am tempted to, because that's all I've got to read, the crossover. But I think that was about 8 issues or something. Was it 8? It was either 6 or 8, something like that. So I don't know. I'm gonna look into it and maybe see if I can just jump back into where this picks up after that crossover, Monster Men crossover. Maybe then I could catch up on that good time. We've got DK3, The Master Race, issue number 7. I've read none of this. I've got the first Dark Knight ready to read. I'm waiting to get the second one, but I've heard nothing but bad things about it. So I want to get it at a decent price. I don't want to pay over 10 quid for it. And at the moment, it hasn't come down to that price on Amazon. Maybe it never will. But, when you know going in that a book is bad, you kind of are willing to pay less for it. So we will see. And then I'll get into these. So that's a book that will be put up for a while, that one will. We then have The Flash issue 13, which I really want to get back up up to date with The Flash because I was enjoying this series. And we have Wonder Woman issue 13, which was another series I was really enjoying. So a few books there that I really want to get caught up on. And that's one good thing about being behind, is you kind of really clears your mind to the books that you're really enjoying and really want to get caught up on, and the books that you're not so bothered. And what I've done since getting behind, the books that I'm not so bothered I've dropped, so it has worked out in that way good for me. So these are the books I'm going to read later today. We have Seven to Eternity, issue number 4. I've really enjoyed this so far. The first 2 issues were kind of world building, showing you the history of this world and the characters and how they interacted with each other and the setup and everything and the history. So it really set everything up. Issue 3 set up the direction of the series as they've gone on this mission now. I think it's really good. They're getting through those 3 issues. Maybe issue 1 or 2 might not be for you because it's building this world. But if you stick with it to issue 3, it just crystallizes where everything's going. So I'm excited to get into this because I am really enjoying it. And Opinia and Remender make a really good team on the book. We then have Black Widow issue number 9. Wade and Samney are just one of my all-time favorite teams. They work so well together, as we saw on Daredevil. And Samney is, I think, for me personally, the best storyteller through art in comics. He's out of all the artists, he's the best storyteller. I always go back to that issue of Daredevil where Foggy learned he had cancer, and you had that last page, and there was virtually no dialogue. I think there was just a few words, and it was all down to Samney to sell that page and to get across this devastating news. And he just hit it perfectly emotionally. I've never read one of more emotional pages than that issue, and it was all done mainly through the art, and that just shows what a great storyteller Samney is. So yeah, great gun. So the first couple of issues of this was disappointing, and because I have such a high regard for Samney and Wade as a team, I was disappointed with it. But then I think it may have been around issue 4 or 5, and everything kind of gets tied up, and you realise where everything's going, and you're like, and everything just clicked into place then. So yeah, looking forward to getting into this one. We then have Savage issue number 2 from Valiant Comics. I really enjoyed the first issue. I went into this as a blank slate, and I think sometimes that's the best way to go. I think, no, not sometimes, all the time. Because I know when you read a synopsis, instantly in your mind you have expectations. If the book does not then meet them expectations, if it tells a totally different story, you're going to come away disappointed. I know, for example, Blue Beetle. I went into that expecting something that I wanted. When I didn't get that, I was disappointed with the book. Now, it doesn't mean that that book was a bad book. It just didn't meet what I had thought the book was going to be. So, it's good sometimes to go into especially a totally new book, having no idea what it's going to be about. This is about. It's kind of told in the modern day and in the past. The past is this footballer, a soccer player, and his wife and his child, and they've crashed on this planet, and it's basically like the Savage Land out of Marvel. There's dinosaurs and all kinds of crazy stuff on this island, and the issue ended where the father discovers this dinosaur. Meanwhile, in the present day, we see who we gather is the son now as a child, and he's hunting and he kills this dinosaur. So you've got these kind of 2 stories running parallel, and yeah, it's going to be interesting how we get from the one to the other. But it was not what I was expecting, and one of the things I love about Valiant is how they managed to get so many different genres, and they show you that we can have the shared universe, but through the shared universe, these different books can touch different genres and tell different types of stories. Yeah, enjoying that. Looking forward to getting to the second issue. We then have Teen Titans issue number 3, which I've really enjoyed the first few issues of this, because they had like a rebirth issue, then you had issue 1, issue 2. This is Damien's group, and basically he's brought them together. And what I like is the way that Ben Percy has written Damien. He's got him dead on. You kind of like, the thing with Damien is, he's arrogant, and he can be sometimes cold and arrogant and a bit of a jerk, but that's kind of his shield. Underneath that, he's actually this vulnerable child who's lonely, who just wants friends. That's why he surrounds himself with all these animals like Batcow and his dog, whose name at the minute escapes me, because he's lonely. And of course, who could forget Goliath, his pet man-bat? But that's why he surrounds himself with these things, because he is lonely and he's a child, he just wants friends. So, like, this is going to be an interesting series, the Teen Titans, seeing how he interacts with these other people. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first few issues, and I'm looking forward to getting into that. We then have Deadpool Too Soon, issue number 3. I've got issue 2 to read, then I'll be good to go. What I like about the different Deadpool books is, why, yes, there's too many, but they do different things. And this book is, I've got an unusual cast of characters that Deadpool has brought together to be in the picture for his Christmas card that he's going to send out to people. And somebody gets killed. And so now he's kind of investigating, trying to find out who done it. So it's like a superhero who done it with this bizarre mix of characters. I enjoyed the first issue, and I'm looking forward to catching up on this and getting into that. So now we are back now to final stretch of the video, and it is the books that I've read. So first up, we have Hulk issue number 1. I really was looking forward to this. I came away thinking that, yeah, it's okay. I didn't mind that we don't see a Hulk up in this issue, because I like that we're building to that. I also like that the fact that because of what's happened to her, being beaten up so badly at the hands of Thanos that she was in a coma, then coming out of that coma to find out that one of her friends, Hawkeye, killed her cousin, Bruce Banner, and having to deal with that loss and all that anger. And she's dealing with it by bottling it up, which is never healthy. And that's kind of changed her as the Hulk. And now, like, she spends most of her time as Jen Walters, and she hulks up. When she does Hulk up, it's not the same anymore because of all that anger she's got. You gather this. It doesn't say explicitly that's it. That's the kind of thing that it intimates, or that I got from reading it. Like I say, this book, it was good art. It was a good story. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's also nothing that really reaches out and grabs you and makes you say, yes, this series is awesome. I'm looking forward to this. Yes, it does set up some interesting stuff. But if after 6 issues they're like this, I'll probably drop it, because it's just okay. It's good, it's okay, but it's nothing like overly excitable. So we'll see how we go. I think they've built a firm foundation, and it's interesting what they're going to build on that now. That's going to be the trick. We then have, we have Civil War 2, issue number 8. I don't like to be negative, but I did not enjoy this book. Coming into Civil War 2, I wasn't looking forward to the event. I could understand why Marvel wanted to cash in on the whole Civil War name with Captain America Civil War coming out. So I could understand that, and I had no issue with that. It did seem a little bit creatively bankrupt to do it, but money-wise, I could understand why they'd want to do it. But then we came into the event, and they got a story I was interested in. You have this Inhuman called Ulysses, who can see the future. On the one side, you have Captain Marvel, who's like, yeah, we can use this kid to see things that are going to come up and stop them before they happen. This is going to be a good thing, and it's going to help us be better heroes and save more people, because we'll know things before they happen. Then you've got Iron Man, Tony Stark, saying, well, look, we don't know how this kid's powers work. You know, does his opinions and his prejudices affect the visions he sees? How is he, how is he picking what to see and what not to see? Because there's so many futures. How do we know his is the right one or a possible one? There's all these questions we need answered before we kind of start using this kid blindly and saying everything's going to come true that he sees. Also, then there's the whole rights thing. You can't arrest somebody for something they might do or could do. So, um, two sides there of this argument, and it looked interesting. Of course, from the start, Captain Marvel was on shaky ground because, come on, when Tony Stark is the voice of reason, you know you are on shaky ground. And all through the story, for me personally, Captain Marvel has been the villain. She's blindly followed this thing. Even when people have pointed out the flaws in her plans, she just blindly carries on forward because, yes, she has good intentions, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and that's where Marvel is heading. Her actions in the first story to try and take Thanos end up with War Machine getting killed and Shield put in a coma. Her decision to go and face the Hulk with a big team of heroes to potentially take him down ultimately ends up with the Hulk getting killed by Hawkeye. And then the end of this story, she has this big battle in Washington with Iron Man and ends up putting him in a coma. So all the collateral damage to this, was it really worth it? What did you avoid? You look at the devastation you caused battling Iron Man. You look at all this loss and it's like, have you really, you know, because the thing as well that I don't think they touched upon in the series is, like, for example, with the Hulk, how do you know that the whole thing of going to the Hulk to apprehend him isn't going to be the catalyst that sets off that future that you saw of him destroying cities? So, yeah, all through this for me, Captain Marvel's been the villain. Then they have a scene in here where they totally try and rewrite what we've seen and try and say, oh, Captain Marvel, Tony, because Tony's in a coma. He's been experimenting on himself. They're afraid to do anything, even take blood. Whatever he's done to himself is what's keeping him alive. And they don't understand it, and they could do more harm than good. And like she's getting told, oh yeah, Tony never had a problem with you using Ulysses. It was who would come after you, and maybe they wouldn't be as have the same moral judgment that you have. And I'm like, bullshit. The problem was the way Captain Marvel was using it. Didn't matter who come after her. Anybody using this, even Captain Marvel, that's what Iron Man had a problem with. So, like, this bullshit at the end, trying to rewrite what I've just spent, 9 issues reading, don't play that trick. That's bullshit. And the other thing that I really hated is that Ulysses just kind of ascends to this higher consciousness. So we never get any answer into like how did his powers work and how did what he feels play into them. So yeah, this was very disappointing as a conclusion. We have Hawkeye just turn up randomly so to set up his book, and I'm like, we've seen Hawkeye 2 or 3 issues out of all 9, and it's like it just felt so much like he's not part of the story, but we've got this book we want to push, so we're going to stick Hawkeye in there. So I didn't like that. The other problem with the book is David Marquez. His art, is tremendous, and it deserves to be in a much better book than this because his art is top line. He's showing right here with this book that he's top talent. He's a really great artist, but the book itself is pants, and I wouldn't waste your money on it because I really, really did not like it. It's not the worst event of all time. Age of Ultron for me is still the worst event of all time. I'm still in therapy from reading that book. That's how bad it was. But Civil War 2 does definitely have a very flat and disappointing ending, especially when you consider they decided they needed an extra issue to tell it. And I'm like, why? I wish it had ended at issue 7. However, to pick me up though, the next book did that, Extraordinary X-Men, issue number 17, and this was brilliant. It's a tie-in to the Inhumans X-Men story. It's set during that issue, and Storm returns to X-Haven, having kind of thrown in with Magneto and Emma Frost, and she's going to go to war with the Inhumans, and now she's going to tell the rest of the X-Men and mutants that are based at X-Haven. And this story kind of shows how she comes to make peace with that decision of going to war, that it's not a hero thing to do, and I really like this. The art at the beginning I had a problem with, but as the issue went on, I got used to it, and it got less and less of a problem. Also, the writing here is just really strong, and there's just some really emotional moments in this. And if all these tie-ins from Lemire are going to be this good, these are going to be well worth getting. It isn't essential to the story, so if you just want to read the main story, you don't need to read this. But if you really like the X-Men and you want a bit of more extra flavor in the Inhumans versus X-Men, this definitely adds that. It was really good, and just the pick me up I needed after the horror that Civil War 2 and issue number 8 was. Next up, we have the Mighty Thor, issue number 14. I enjoyed this one as well. I'm loving the League of Realms. I'm also really liking the whole setup for the War of Realms, and that's all really good. Some great stuff between Thor and Curse, which was really good. But Malekith's the character that has surprised me. He's such an evil, sadistic bastard. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it. He like, and one of the things I like is that there's no story, oh, he had a bad childhood or anything like that. He's just evil. At the end of. And I kind of like that. Sometimes it's nice to have villains that have motives, like Magneto. They're doing things for mutants, or Mr. Freeze is basically doing everything that he does because he wants to find a cure for his wife. So it's good to have villains that have that kind of motive. But at the same time, sometimes people are just bad, and that's Malekith. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him get his. We then have Commander Bloodshot #1. This is a one-shot tie-in to the Divinity 3 Stalinverse series, where Divinity as kind of this. The time has been rewritten, and the Soviet Union now rules the world. I was thinking how to explain it, but I think that's the quickest and easiest way. And so we're getting our regular Valiant Universe characters reimagined. And Jeff Lemire, again, a great book here that he writes, brings in characters from the regular series and reimagines them in this alternate reality where the Soviet Union rules the world. But also the art here by Clayton Cray is just brilliant. Really enjoyed this. And finally, we have Titans, issue number 6. And yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot as well. I did have a little of a problem with them kind of taking away a bit of history, but the whole story was really good. The emotions were there, and it was just brilliant emotional journey. But at the same time, the art was just tremendous. There's the one bit when Wally manages to come back out of the Speed Force and face Kadabra, and it's just this fantastic double page spread, and it was just awesome. So all around, really enjoyable book. And yeah, so those are the comics I picked up last week. I will be back, all things being well, Friday or Saturday. Leaves me just to say thank you very much for watching my video. I've been Jason. It has been the 2nd of January 2017. You've been watching Comic Haul. Easy for me to say, ain't it? Comic Haul Weekly. Keep reading, and bye for now.